Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another very, very exciting episode of the Takes from the Lakes podcast. I'm here with James, as always. And we told everybody that we have some exciting news, but we're joined today by baseball analyst at ESPN and Twitter newsbreaker extraordinaire, Jeff Passan. So thanks a ton for coming on the podcast today. We're super pumped to have you.
And I'm super pumped to be here, Nash. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we figured you'd be more honored to be on our podcast rather than we are to have you. So,
Yeah, that's
I
how
speak on your behalf,
it
but,
works. Yeah, like
there we go.
this is your home. I'm coming in. I'll take my shoes off before I
There
go
we go.
inside, and I'll do my best not to defile the place.
There we go. All right, sounds good.
So obviously, I know Jeff from some Kansas City connections. I was first introduced to you when you Skyped into my classroom at the 2014 Sochi Games, when you were working at Yahoo. But just like the first thing we kind of want to know is how you made your way from that gig at Yahoo Sports and then eventually made it to where you're at right now at ESPN.
Uh, I've worked a lot. It's never a linear path when it comes to careers, and journalism certainly isn't accepted from that. And I knew what I wanted to do when I was about 14 years old, and from that point on, just dedicated myself to it. And I spent 4 years at Syracuse, which were great. My first job was in Fresno, California, not a place that's altogether familiar to most people, but a great breeding ground for reporters at the Fresno Bee. And went to the Kansas City Star back in 2004, and that was my first year covering baseball. And was there for 2 years before going to Yahoo for like 13 or 14. And then I got the call up, and it was working at ESPN was never something I was like, I have to do that before my career is over, because at its heart, ESPN is a television network, and I never had those aspirations to be on TV, but it's the best place to work, whether you're on TV or like myself, who's I still consider myself a reporter at heart. And my blood runs with ink, and that's sort of how it's always going to be. And I'm lucky that they've allowed me to still flex those writing muscles, even when doing the news breaking and TV and the other elements of the job.
Yeah, there you go. You mentioned Syracuse. I don't know if Nat told you, a current student at Syracuse, not in Newhouse though, studying sport analytics in Falk. Can you kind of take us through that experience and what you got involved with? I think probably the Daily Orange, right? You probably got
Yeah.
involved with to kind of take us through your 4 years there, and yeah.
Education is just what you make of it. And, I was really fortunate that when I walked into the Daily Orange office on
Mhm.
like literally my first day freshman year, the person there to greet me was Pete Thamel. And
Mhm.
Pete's now our college sports insider at ESPN, and was clearly, even back then, you could tell how talented he was and how good he was. But that sort of environment where you're just surrounded by people who love to do this and
Mhm.
who want to make a living out of it. That's what I had every day. And as much as you can learn inside a classroom, nothing beats practical experience. And my freshman year, getting to talk with Donovan McNabb, and
Mhm.
the first football story I wrote was on Dwight Freeney, who's now an NFL Hall of Famer, and getting to cover a basketball team that was number one in the rankings, and getting
Not
to see one
anymore.
of the best lacrosse. Yeah, I mean, one of no, not anymore.
Yeah. Hmm.
They
Getting to
beat
see
KU
the
too.
Yeah, that's some bad blood over here.
getting to see the lacrosse team, a sport that I didn't know a whole lot about, and was able to get that education. Syracuse back then, and I imagine still to some extent,
Mhm.
was just really good for teaching you those on the job lessons that you cannot learn from a classroom. And so, practical experience, I think, is everything. And I got a lot of great practical experience at Syracuse.
Yeah. Real quick, Nash. I
Awesome.
know like the connections with Syracuse like is crazy through Newhouse and all that. The other day we had Scott Pioli, who was like the GM of the Pats from like '01 to '09, and he came in and spoke to us and was a super good guy and was super great. So just like the connections through Newhouse, obviously you, a bunch of people in sports media is super cool. But just want to throw that in there. But Nash, go ahead.
Yeah. So obviously you've been a reporter through and through. But in 2016 you wrote a book called The Arm. And like as so much of baseball has to do with arm health, Tommy John, before we hit record, talking about Garrett Cole's arm injury. Um, so just if you could walk us through that book a little bit and then just how some of that stuff that you wrote about still pertains to what you're doing today.
I mean, it came together because I couldn't find an answer to a question that I thought was really important, which is how do you keep pitchers healthy? And it's a question that still to this day is not answered. And when you're working on a project like that, it's essentially a second full-time job. And if I was going to take on a second job, I wanted it to be something that could at least apply somewhat to my actual job. And knowing that arm injuries aren't going anywhere, I figured, okay, well, if they're not going anywhere, then become an expert on them so you can explain things and talk through these injuries and be someone that fans go to when they see an arm injury. All right, well, who's going to be able to tell me about it? And it's that mixture of like short-term desire to work on a project, but also not looking past the long-term implications of that. This book ended up just dovetailing really nicely with the things that I have to do in my regular job. And I spent 4 years on it, a lot longer than I was expecting, but sometimes the story goes in unexpected directions, and you can either write what you thought you were going to write or write the full thing. And the extra couple of years after one of the guys who I was following, who had undergone Tommy John surgery, blew out again. It not only gave me the time to tell the full story, but allowed me to explore other things deeper than I might not have otherwise. And so I'm not appreciative that Daniel Hudson had to go through this grueling rehab and spend an extra 18 months out of baseball. But for the sake of the book, it was really helpful. And it was kind of funny because the athletes that you're covering, they're not in this world. They look at the media mostly as like, yeah, they're there, they're sort of tangentially part of this, but they don't understand for the most part what we do. And so I remember talking with Daniel Hudson when he found out he had torn his UCL for a second time, and he said, "I'm sorry, I hope I didn't ruin your book." And I was like, I wanted to say, no, it's actually kind of better now. Well, which it was. Like, it was a much more interesting story. And I think wound up being one with the career that he had, closing out a World Series, finishing his MLB playing career by winning another World Series. Like, he had a really good career. And it's always been like cool for me to have been a small part of that and to have seen it evolve the way that it did.
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
mentioned, sorry, go ahead, Nash. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, it would have definitely been worse if he'd completely blown out immediately after the book released, but he
Yeah.
came back and did some stuff after, so it's not
You know
it's
what
not
though?
too
It
bad.
might it might not have been though, because
Yeah.
the book was essentially a cautionary tale
Mhm.
that you have this enormous institution in Major League Baseball in which half of its workforce is being lost on, it's not quite an annual basis yet, but more or less everyone gets cut at one point. And how in this world where efficiency has become such a hallmark of how teams are run, are they so patently inefficient with keeping guys healthy?
Mhm.
And if we wanted a perfect example of that, it would have been a guy who just, couldn't stay healthy at all, no matter how hard he tried. And that's like as a storyteller, you just have to be flexible. You have to understand that stories are going to go in wild directions, and your job is to follow where it goes and tell it to the best of your ability from that place, not a place that a preconceived notion might have thought was going to bring you to.
Yeah. So, kind of advancing on that, like it seems you formed kind of a relationship with Daniel Hudson through the book. Have you been able, through, I guess, specific stories throughout your career, form like special relationships with players as your time has gone on?
It's a
Specific
tough
players?
balance. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's, like you have to be friendly with
Mm,
people without being friends with them.
yeah.
By friends, I mean like, if so, let's say something bad happens to a player that if your
Mhm.
instinct is not to report it, then that's
Yeah.
not a good
Not doing your
relationship
job. Yeah.
because yeah, at the end of the day, like there's a job to do, and you
Mm,
hope to get to the point where you have the kind of relationship with people where even if something bad happens, they understand your role.
mm,
And, the way to make that happen is just to be explicit with them and clear with them. And maybe not like upfront at the beginning, like setting terms. That's never a good way to start a relationship. But over time, particularly interested people will ask you questions about what you do and give you scenarios, and you talk through it with them, and they get a better understanding of what the job does entail. So I mean, there are many people I'm very fond of,
mm.
and people whom I wish nothing but success, but like I kind of have to get along with everyone,
Yeah.
or at least have like not get along with, but at least have like some sort of a working relationship
Professional
with them.
relationship.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mm,
Because the scope of the job, like if you look at it, it's kind of massive. It's
yeah.
not just the players on the 30 teams. It's the managers, it's the coaches, it's the executives, it's the scouts, it's ownership, it's the medical side, it's the law side. Like
Hmm.
the beauty of covering sports is that it allows you to be a polymath.
Mm.
Like you get to learn something about just about everything. And if you're interested and curious enough, that's where good stories come from.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I got to speak like very briefly a couple years back with Woj. And the biggest thing that he said was just like he's built relationships to the point that the news almost comes to him or came to him now that he's retired.
Yeah.
Um, just building a little bit off that, how do you try to build those sort of difficult relationships that will actually get you the news that you want?
I think it's a couple of things. Number one, you have to be trustworthy and trustworthy in your conversations with people and trustworthy in the ways that you deliver information. And I think Adrian certainly was right in the regard that over time, as it builds, it almost becomes like a self-feeding machine, and people start looking at you
Mm.
as the person who delivers the big
The
news.
guy.
So they want to help you out there. But they only want to help you out if you've earned it, right? Like there aren't going to be people who, well, sometimes there are, but it's not a lot of people who just come to you and say, "Hey, you are who you are. Here is this news." Like you need to talk with them. You need to understand where they are in their lives and their careers, and meet them in that place. And just depends on the sources. Some sources want you to be there as a sounding board, to hear them complain or to bounce an idea off of. And some sources want to know what's going on in the general world of baseball. And it's a matter of knowing who people are and what their desires are, and in a genuine way trying to understand that and how it can relate to your life as well, because we all have things that we share. It just depends on the time of life they're at, whether those happen to align with yours in this particular moment. But
Mm.
if they don't, chances are you've been there at some point and you understand what's important to them, and do the best that you can within all of the ethical boundaries that are set where they are to do that.
Hmm. So how does that like dynamic of breaking the big news first work? Because obviously you kind of have to balance making sure that it's actually right. Not to reference anything
Yeah.
specific, but the Arson Judge situation. But like we've had a couple huge signings in the past couple years, Juan Soto to name one. How does that work? Kind of competing with other guys, but also making sure that what you report is actually true because obviously you have a big following.
Yeah, I mean the like I will believe something is 99.99% happening and I will not report it
Yeah. Mhm.
because that 0.01% is the difference between me having the reputation that I do, thankfully, and me being seen as a guy who just gets things wrong.
Yeah.
And you never want that. I mean, the career I have has been built on the idea that I get things right, and if I can get them first too, that's great. But I'm not going to, uh, I'm not going to extend myself beyond what has worked now and stretch for scoops when they might just lead me down the kind of path that I don't want to go down. So
Mhm.
it's always different with every story.
Yeah.
Some stories you get one source who is directly involved and who you have a long relationship with and understand that he or she is telling you the truth. And, maybe you're willing to go with that, but the vast majority of the time, it's very simple. If I hear something, I'm not just going to run and print it. I'm going to talk with the people who are involved. If for no other reason, then there's an element of courtesy to it
Mhm.
too. Like, hey, when I send out a tweet, there are going to be however many reporters who cover this team who want to know whether it's true. And
Mhm.
so they are going to start bombarding some of the same people who I'm talking with. And if I can give them a heads up on that, like, if they're at their kid's dance recital, at least they know it's going to be coming and can prepare for it. And so I try to be a decent human being
Mhm.
first. Like when you lead with your human side and not your reporter side, it tends to get a much better reaction out of the people who you're talking with, and that I've used that to my benefit over the years.
Gotcha.
Nice. So are you at spring training right now?
I'm at home right now, clearly
Nice.
lazy
You got the
worker.
sweatshirt
Nice.
on,
No,
AirPods
I was in Florida, then I was in Arizona, and I'm going back to Florida next week.
Nice, nice. So, what does being around those teams during spring training sort of look like? Because obviously, like a lot of the reporting you do doesn't necessarily dictate that you're up close and personal. So, what's sort of the benefit of being there for you?
I try to be up close and personal because it's not just what I'm doing that day. I always have an eye looking down the road. And so if someone's going to be a free agent this upcoming off season,
Mhm.
I'm going to spend a little more time talking to them and just like I'm not saying unless I have a relationship with a guy, I'm not going to come out and explicitly say, "Hey, I want your free agency," even though I do. But there are guys who I will say that to, like I'm breaking your shit, right? And he's like,
Yeah.
of course. And that's not always how it goes.
Mhm.
But um, spring training is great because it reminds me that I still know how to write. If you look
Mhm.
at the stories that I write on news stuff, they're it's kind of paint by numbers. The lead is okay, what happened? Then you have context in the second graph, then you have background in the third through seventh or eighth, and that's about it.
Mhm.
That's not the story that I got into the business to write. I wanted to tell stories about people, and spring training gives you the opportunity to have a lot more time in a clubhouse or a lot more time with guys when if they're not playing that day, then they're done by noon. And if they are playing that day, the big leaguers, particularly early in spring training, are coming out of games. And so you can sit in the clubhouse with them. So spring training to me is a time to tell some better stories, but also the socialization element. Like I haven't seen you since last year. What'd you do this winter? Sometimes a guy will say, "I learned to do this," and hey, that's the story
Mhm.
right there.
Yeah.
Potentially, you're always on the lookout for stories and always need to acknowledge that you can find them in different places than you would sometimes think.
Yeah, so that kind of dynamic, I mean, obviously the spring training dynamic's different from the regular season. Guys are locked in. How does that vary? I guess your schedule, particularly spring training versus the regular season. Where are you going? Is there much player contact? What's kind of your day to day in the regular season? Are you traveling a lot, going to games, that sort of thing?
Generally speaking, when a team is in town playing the Royals, I'll go up there
Yeah.
and visit them. So
Mm,
I get a fair amount of contact, and with every team playing every team now, that helps things.
mm,
So I do get that, but mostly my travel during the regular season is more along the lines of like, is there a story I want to do somewhere?
mm.
And if so, how do I get there and do it? Now, I have a son who is Nash. Are you a senior this year?
Yeah, senior.
Okay, so I think he's your age, but he's a junior, and
Is he at East?
he no, he's at Pembroke Hill actually.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yes. So, he plays baseball, and
Yeah.
as much as I love Major League Baseball games and enjoy watching them, I'm much more interested in his games
Hmm.
than
High school
MLB
games
games.
are more
So,
entertaining than MLB anyways, so they're more fun.
I don't know about that.
They're more
How much high
talented
school
players.
baseball have you watched?
Hey, Virginia
Did you
Beach, I don't
play?
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, Virginia Beach
Yeah.
comp, it might be up there with some MLBs. I'm just kidding. But yeah,
We
gotta
had a
get
guy
that
get
first.
No,
drafted a couple years back, big lefty. He's
Hmm.
with the Tigers now. Tigers
Yeah,
organization.
yeah, Blake Dickerson with the Tigers. I don't know if you know Carson DeMartini, with the Phillies.
I do know
Yeah.
Carson DeMartini because I met him. I
Oh,
gave a speech at Virginia Tech
oh yeah.
the year that Carson was a freshman. He can
Hmm.
really hit, man.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
he's a dog.
He's
Yeah.
also an Ocean Lakes
Yep.
product.
Yeah.
So
So he
we've
was
we've had
a
a few
senior when I was a
dogs come
freshman.
out of
Yeah,
yeah.
Virginia Beach, it runs deep. But anyways, getting back, Kansas City high school baseball.
Nothing of interest there. I
Okay.
just I I just like watching my kid play.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, of
for
course.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, so with that, how do you temper the sort of fandom that you might have? You're an Ohio native. Are you a Royals fan? Any of the Ohio teams, or do you try to keep it as neutral as possible, just based off the nature of your job?
I don't root for anyone. I can't. Like
Hmm.
Yeah,
and also growing up in Cleveland, you kind of learn that rooting for sports teams is terrible. Like terrible for your mental health, terrible for your physical health, like just terrible altogether unless you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan. And
Mm.
so
even
are you a Chiefs
then,
fan?
I am a Chiefs fan. That's
Nice.
that's the one that I've picked up, and that was
Sadly.
mainly because nothing sad about it, my
Mm.
friend.
Yep.
Got a lot of
Hey,
rings.
I'm a
And who do
Pats
you root
guy.
for?
I'm Patriots. I'm Patriots Red Sox. So, hey,
Yeah.
we have
Pats
a
are
few
doing
more.
great these
Hey,
days.
I've seen three Super Bowls. You guys, Nash, I guess you've seen three too, but we're tied. So,
Yeah, I've seen enough.
yeah,
I've
we're
seen
good.
enough.
Anyways.
It's I allow myself to be a Chiefs fan, and even with all of their success, it's like the Super Bowl this year was just such a dick punch that
Yeah.
I like you wonder
Mm.
like, why do we do this? Why do we put ourselves through this? Why is it so painful? We're not
Hmm.
involved. We have no stakes in this, but
Yeah.
that's fandom
Yeah.
right there. And
Hmm.
Yeah.
the reason that ESPN has been as grand of a success as it has over the course of its history is because it has taken the collective um, desire and angst and everything that comes with being a sports fan and just bottled it up, and we serve it to people every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find myself saying we, even though I'm
There you
not part
go.
of the team.
You are
Hey,
definitely not part of the team,
you are doing
Nash.
nothing. Yeah. And maybe one day. But kind of at that what you just said at the end kind of reminded me like obviously we've seen a lot of stuff or a lot of talk about the NBA and kind of decreasing ratings and kind of just the overall product of it not being, I guess, the best. Would you say that right now the state of baseball, or I guess baseball is in a good spot in terms of star power and the product in itself? And do you think that there's a lot of growth to be had in the future?
I don't know what the growth is going to look like. I would
Mhm.
love to sit here and say Major League Baseball is,
Yeah.
going to be the clear number two because,
Mhm.
frankly, nobody's beating the NFL for a long time.
Yeah.
But uh, and I think you're right. The stars in baseball right now, like Shohei Ohtani, is the biggest star that the sport has seen in a long time,
Yeah.
and it's cool to get to witness what he does because
Mhm.
I think the argument that he's the most talented player who's ever played is a very reasonable
Fair.
one for you to make. I think the pitch clock helped baseball a lot,
Yeah.
and I think the challenge automated ball strike system is going to be in play next year and is going to be good for the sport too. All that being said, baseball has issues. There are two teams playing in minor league stadiums this year. Half the regional sports networks collapsed last year. There's a collective bargaining agreement that expires in December 2026 that could lead to a significant work stoppage. So, not everything's peachy right now,
Yeah.
but I think generally speaking, baseball is in a good place at this point. There are just some detours it could take to take it not there very quickly.
Yeah. Another lockout probably wouldn't do it any favors.
Nope.
But yes, we'll see how that goes.
So, at the peril of taking up too much of your time, one more thing. So I read most of the article about the minor league stadiums. I saw you wrote one on Jeffrey Yan. So how do you, do you prefer writing those full-length stories,
Yes.
as opposed to, so
Quick and
that's
easy.
how often do you find yourself getting to do those? And
Not
what,
often enough,
yeah.
but I try to take advantage when I can. And when I got into the industry, that's all I wanted to do for the first 10 years of my career. That's more or less all I did. But the industry shifts. And when you have children, and when you have a wife, and when you have people that you got to take care of, sometimes you have to subvert your ego and say, it doesn't matter what I want to do or what I got into the business to do. What is the best business decision for my family? And I noticed that people who break news, generally speaking, have jobs. And that's what I was hoping for long term. And so that's essentially how I got into the news side of things. It was mainly self preservation. And I'm never going to sit here and tell you I know where the journalism industry is going because I don't. I have no idea. But one thing I think that I've done pretty well is adapted with the times, and even if I can't predict them, I can see stuff when it's going on, and saw where journalism was headed, and was afraid that the era of the generalist or of the person, I think like my best skill that I have is I just call it helicoptering in. Like you can drop me off at any sporting event anywhere. And no matter how unfamiliar I am with it, I feel like I'll have a decent chance at writing the best story from there that day. And uh, I love the challenge of that, but it's different from what I do now. Like specialization has become part of the industry, and even though some of my fondest memories were like covering the Olympics when I was at Yahoo, or doing the Stanley Cup or golf majors or things like that. And it's
Versatile.
just not in the cards. Yeah, it's not in the cards for me right now. And I have grown to accept that begrudgingly, but I get that's what the company needs from me right now. And there will always be time to go cover an Olympics.
There you
Yeah,
go.
journalism's in crazy times. I did my senior project on like the future of our local public media station. So it's
Mhm.
crazy times. But James, I think you have one more question
Yeah,
and we'll get you out of here.
one last baseball related question before we thank you again for coming on before we get you out of here. Obviously, season's coming up, as everyone knows. Give me it can be a hot take, it doesn't have to be a hot take. I don't know if you have anything in your mind. Give me one prediction for the season coming up. I know you want to say the Red Sox are winning the World Series because obviously everyone thinks that, but go ahead and give it to us.
Well, that is one hot take I will not be having.
Okay,
Though it would
unfortunately.
not entirely shock me
There we
if they
go.
did
Okay.
win the American League East. Like
Thank
I can
you.
see it.
Mm-hmm.
They need Garrett Crochet to be the guy he was last year,
Yeah. And
except over 200 innings as opposed to
yeah.
115.
And a lot of guys to be
And
healthy. Trevor Story playing more
Yeah,
than 50 games would be nice too, but we'll
yeah,
see.
of course.
Yeah.
What is my hot take? I want to say the Dodgers aren't going to win the World Series,
Okay.
but I think I probably will pick them.
Yeah.
I just,
It's hard not to
I
put
just
money on them.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
I know how random the game is. And 2 years ago, they got swept by the Diamondbacks. The year before that, they got beaten by the Padres. This is not an infallible team, even though they have added an immense amount of star power over the
Hmm.
last couple of years. I will say this, um, I'm not good at hot takes.
Okay.
Like I
You don't want to be too
understand that's
bold.
like it's like that's where a lot of the industry has gone now.
Mhm.
And I suppose if I worked on it, I could come up with a bunch of shit I don't believe and sell you on it.
Yeah.
Like I could sell you right now on the Red Sox are winning the World Series. I can
Hmm.
make that argument. I just don't buy it.
That's the thing. Yeah.
So I try as part of the whole like I want people to trust me. I try not to say outlandish things that are said just to get a rise out of people.
Yeah.
But you know what? Maybe my winter arc is coming.
There you
Like
go.
one of these
Love a change of
days.
pace. Yeah. Well, you
Awesome.
just beautifully dodged a way to say a controversial thing on the Takes from Legs podcast.
Yeah.
I've
So I'll
gotten
give you
good at
I'll,
credit.
that.
I'll teach you how. I'll teach you
Yeah,
how
yeah.
to give
Nash
a hot
Nash
take.
knows it better than
Oh no
anybody.
no
Let
no
me
no no
tell
no
you,
no! I don't need a lesson in how to. I've got the how
he's got
to.
it in his bag.
This
Yeah.
this is merely discipline of a middle-aged man revealing itself for the listeners.
There you go. There
Awesome.
you go.
Well, we seriously greatly appreciate your time. We've been looking forward to this for quite a while. Um, and we'll let
Yeah.
you go. But
Yeah.
thank you once
Thank you
again to
again.
all the listeners. It's Jeff Passan. Make sure to follow him on Twitter,
He bombs
Instagram,
atomically.
all of the things. He bombs atomically.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Do you
thank
guys
you
get
again.
that reference, by the way?
Is it like a pop culture reference?
I
Yeah, you would get
don't.
it.
I
Shit,
Okay.
I'm
don't.
so old.
Hey,
It's
I know you got a
the
lot of
the
younger
Wu Tang
followers,
Clan.
I'm sure. But
The
oh,
Wu
it's
Tang
Wu-Tang.
Clan song "Triumph" starts. I bomb atomically. Socrates' philosophies and
Mm.
hypotheses can't define how I'd be dropping these mockeries lyrically. Perform armed robbery, flee with the lottery, possibly a spot of me. So there you go.
Okay, say that 5 times fast, and then we'll get you. I'm just kidding. All right, but
It would
okay,
take
we'll
too
have to get
long, but
familiar.
I could.
I bet you could. Yeah. Well, we'll have to get familiar then. Nash and I will gladly do our research. But yes,
The
thank you
best
again.
posse track of all time. Learn your shit, children. Come on
Okay, well
now.
that's a hot take right there, I think. Hey, so
Okay, that you know what? If
maybe
that's a
you're
hot take,
learning.
then
Maybe you're learning that he's
like
the
if you
winner arc is
want
here.
posse cut, like go to Wu Tang Clan and listen to Triumph, and I think you'll be on board.
Okay, we
I'm sure
greatly
my dad
appreciate
would agree with you.
Good.
all of
Listen,
it.
having the middle aged men demographic captured, it's what I got into the business to do.
There
Very
you go.
exciting.
And you've done it well. But thank you again for coming on. We greatly appreciate it, and we're looking forward to the season.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Fantastic
Appreciate
stuff.
Yep,
you
of
having me.
course. Have a good one.
All right. Have a good one.
Take it easy, boys.
See ya.
Wow. So I'm still fangirling just a little bit from the interview. But there's a few more things that James and I
Bro,
have to
bro
cover.
is not
Um,
acting like he's been here before. He is not acting like he's been
I
here
have not been here
before.
before.
Me personally.
Anyway, I think James and I did a decently good job of
Yeah.
upholding the Takes from the Lakes name. But regardless, um, we actually haven't recorded a podcast since the Super Bowl, so just to mention
Oh
that,
boy.
very rough.
Bro's gotta
But
plays
it's
right over
kind
there.
of stale news, so we won't dive too much deeper into that.
Chiefs
Obviously,
got
we just
destroyed.
talked. Yeah, we just talked for 30 minutes about baseball. So,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yep.
for
Got
more
some good
news,
inside info.
tune into another episode. But there has been some developments in the NBA. James, any that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it today and I was just looking at the standings and honestly, like, I don't really check the standings that much. So low-key, every time I do, I'm like, oh, like, I didn't realize this team was this good. Cleveland's 54-10, which is insane. I think there's a stat that only four teams in NBA history have lost the finals when losing 12 or less. That's kind of a bunch of like word salad, but when teams lose 12 or less games, they pretty much always win the NBA Finals. It's happened a couple times where they haven't, but it's just kind of an interesting benchmark to watch for
And the
Cleveland to
Thunder are
hit.
53-11.
Yeah,
They're only a
exactly. And the
game
Thunder are
worse.
53 and 11. Cavs have won, I think, 14 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the number. Um, Celtics have been playing decent ball, 8 and 2 in their last 10. We'll see how the playoffs gonna stack up. LeBron's out 2 weeks. What is it, groin, I think? Is that what it is?
Yeah, groin. I think it's the same groin that he injured first year. I wait, do
Yeah.
you have two groins or one groin?
I think you have two groin muscles for your both your inner thighs, right?
All right.
If
I
I
don't
don't know,
know.
some
I'm
exercise
actually gonna
science
look it
person
up
get in
right
there.
now.
All right, please do fact check me on that one. But yeah, I mean, Jokic 30 20 20. Okay, who's MVP?
Two groin areas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Gosh, I mean,
Mm,
I will say this. I think the NBA community needs to like stop with this whole like, oh, stop glazing people. And also like foul baiting is unfortunately part of the game and everybody does it.
yeah,
Um, but like no, the MVP is Jokic as much as I
yeah.
wanted it to be Shea. But I think the Shea hate needs to like he was so popular and now it's almost like he's hated.
It's like it's kind of a Tatum arc. Like Tatum was pretty well liked.
Bro, no, Tatum's just the worst, bro. The
Okay, Tatum, there
anomaly.
was a point where Tatum was like one of the more well-liked players in the NBA though.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
20,
Okay.
yeah, go on. 21, I'd say.
What's your favorite of the new nicknames?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, no, it's the ad hominem fallacy. Is it Jalen
Jalen
Green?
Green. Jalen Green.
The
Oh
ad
man.
hominem fallacy.
What about Christian Brown, the eccentricity?
The eccentricity. I
Yeah.
was not even aware of that one. Wow. Um,
There's some
but
good ones. Another favorite for me is the trolley problem.
which way? Oh, it's like some random dude, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who is it again?
Santi Aldama.
It's Santi Aldama. Oh my, the trolley, bro. That is like that's one of the funnier bits in the NBA in a long time. And it's literally all because the dude called or tweeted saying we should call Tatum the anomaly. Oh my God. That's
Oh
really good.
man. It's so
We made like
funny.
nicknames for all of us on our intramural team and stuff. It was like super fun. We had like ChatGPT
Are you
Gemini.
averaging like 30?
It's like 18. I did have a 30 bomb, which was that was a
Are
good
you
game.
leading the team in scoring?
Yeah, well, I led. Technically, we lost in the final four, sadly. Kool-Aid Jammers, but
Damn.
yeah, it was a good run, dude. And I don't know how it's gonna work in Northwestern, but college intramurals, there were like 80 teams in like our league, and they run a 64 team bracket, and we made the final four.
That's so
So
sick.
sick, yeah. But yeah, Kool-Aid Jammers. On to the next one. We'll get the chip next year, but yeah, NBA diet. Yeah, I think Jokic is the MVP. I think they'll probably give it to Shea. Um, even though
Voter fatigue.
I
That's what Caruso did his he made a model like analyzing voter fatigue for his senior
really,
project.
but that's kind of
Yeah.
sick. Was it
Yeah.
it was a research project or was it
Yeah. Basically the only like significant takeaway was that Jokic should have won when Embiid won, which is like
which is
makes me
true,
so angry.
which is true. Well, they felt bad because
Uh
Embiid like missed out because he injured his
no, there was one year where he said LeBron should have won and like
over Giannis that year.
yeah, or that like Harden should have taken one of Giannis's and then
Okay,
LeBron should have taken one of Harden's or something.
yeah,
Um,
huh,
but yeah.
interesting. Well,
Speaking of MVPs, I think it probably should be Jokic. Do you agree?
yeah, I think so. His plus
Um,
my
30,
yeah, his plus
20,
minus is way
20.
better.
He had two triple doubles in one game. That's so insane.
Dude, it's ugh. He this generation. Can we just talk about like who's playing in the NBA right now? Like Jokic, Wemby, and LeBron, and Giannis,
Luca,
Steph, Luke. Like, dude, it's insane. Like,
KD.
I don't know if this is just because we're living in it right now, so we like think it's like, oh my God, it's insane. But this is more create like
Well,
this
yeah,
isn't
but because
normal.
like you got to think like at one point Gary Payton was a top 10 NBA
Yeah,
player,
yeah, that's true.
and like there's no way. And all due respect to Gary Payton, like
Yeah,
come on.
Like dog, yeah. Um,
John Stockton was the best point guard in the game for a time. And
Steve
again,
Nash won MVP.
love some John Stockton. That's my player archetype. But
Yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
know,
No, it's
still.
crazy. But we'll see. The West is very interesting. Houston at 5. Memphis is in kind of having its like quiet, really good season. Um,
By the way, takes from the Lakes, as long as James is free, we'll be
mhm.
back next week, post champ week, pre March Madness brackets
We gotta
coming
do our
out.
yearly.
Um,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna do that right now.
Yeah.
We're not gonna talk about that right now.
Don't we usually
We'll
we
talk
usually do it
about
after the brackets drop though, right? Or do we do it before?
yeah, or we predict the brackets. We'll figure
Mm,
it out just based
yeah.
on availability. But
Yeah.
regardless,
hmm I'll clear. I have to clear time my schedule. It's an annual tradition.
yeah.
But
I'm not as excited this year, but it's okay.
yeah, is KU? They're missing the tournament, right?
No. We're making
Okay.
the tournament,
What are
but
they
like
gonna
we're
be
gonna be
like
like a 7 or 8, like
6, 7, 8?
between an eight
Okay.
and a six.
Okay. Damn. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess that there's no more bias in your predictions now. There we go. Now you won't have any faulty
I
KU
mean,
wins. There we go. An
that's not
actual
true.
prediction. An actual prediction
That's
over
not
here.
true.
All right. But anyways, yeah. I don't really have too much to say on the NBA. I don't
The
think the
thing
Cavs are
that's
gonna be this well
crazy
still.
is that of like teams that are like between an eight and a six, like completely unbiased, KU is definitely like the one team that's the like talented enough to win. But the problem is we just won't.
Mhm.
Like Hunter Dickinson is so good at basketball, except in the last 5 minutes of a game. And then
He's just
like
big,
all
bro.
of
He's
our
not good.
all of our transfers just his touch around the rim is so good, except in the last 5 minutes. It's
Mm,
ridiculous. It's something like his field goal percentage goes from like 70% to like 40%. It's ridiculous.
hmm
And then like our point guard, as much as I love Dewan, like isn't a scorer. And then the transfers just like haven't meshed.
I saw who was it that was getting like death threats? He posted about it on Twitter. Which transfer
Mayo,
was it?
Zeke Mayo.
Yeah, Zeke Mayo. Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that.
he
That's so
completely
sick.
sold
Yeah.
against uh
Texas, right?
no, Texas Tech.
Texas
Texas
Tech. Yeah,
Tech.
that's right.
But yeah, regardless, don't send death threats at players.
Yeah,
We're
not a
getting the
go.
number one player in the class next year, so it's fine.
There's
Um,
always next year.
yeah,
But
there's always next year.
okay, we let's get into some NBA, not NBA, NFL free agency real
NFL.
quick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Um,
DK Metcalf trade, is that the biggest thing on the docket?
yeah, the honestly just the Seahawks, DK trade, Darnold
Yeah. I mean,
signing,
wow.
Trade. Um, yeah, I mean, Patriots are going crazy. They're signing guys, which is nice. But I mean, what are your thoughts on the Seahawks?
Eagles trade Kenny Pickett to the Browns for a fifth rounder in DTR, by the way.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah, I saw it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Seahawks? What they're doing right now?
yeah, I mean, I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
why would you sign Darnold and not just draft a QB if you're gonna blow it up?
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, let's look at the Seahawks depth chart right now. What did they get
Jason might go
for
crazy next year though. That's what's kind of
yeah,
sick about it.
he's really good.
hmm
What did they get for what's his name?
Gino,
No, DK.
DK, a
I know
second
they got like next to
and a
nothing
couple pick
for
swaps, I
Gino.
believe.
That's not too bad actually.
Yeah, a second is pretty solid. They got more for
Yeah.
DK than they did for Gino, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like Sam Darnold, I just think like it's not really an overpay, but it is a lot of money for a guy who's like 29 years old and not that good.
Yeah. The thing is though, he's
Especially
like,
like I'd almost rather tank.
yeah. But he is like
Um,
the 18th highest paid quarterback now. So I kind of get it. I'm not as mad with what he got. Like I was expecting that. I honestly was expecting a little bit more. Um, but just the signing in itself, I don't know what the really thought process is. I think they still might draft a guy super early. I mean, 3 years isn't too bad. I'm pretty sure his contract is like structured weird. It might be more
yeah.
backloaded, so they might just I don't know. There's something about it. There's some kind of out after a couple of years, not like an opt out, but this money is structured weird.
Their
Um,
RB room is still fine, but like their O line is trash except for Charles Cross.
yeah.
Like,
hmm
and then their defense is just like,
they might be
ugh.
like the Saints where they're just mid for a couple of years. and then they
Dude,
actually
I
blow
don't
it up
even
in a
think they
couple
have the talent to be
to be mid. And
mid.
I mean, how many games they win last year?
Dude, look who's rushing the quarterback. Jaron Reed, Jonathan Hankins, Leonard Williams, Derek Hall, Boye
They
Mafe.
won 10 games last year, dude. They should have just brought Gino back. And that's wow. I mean, maybe they just didn't
The
like the outlook with
only
it.
the only strong part of their defense is Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen.
Yeah, which are two really good corners to have to build around. But still, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they're
We'll
both
see.
still young.
Yeah.
They honestly like it's not bad for a rebuild. Like you have pieces.
Hmm.
But I just don't understand why Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Maybe it's so they compare him with a guy like, I don't
Dart.
know, Jackson Dart. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. There we go.
Um,
Okay, wavelength. Yeah, I don't know.
all right.
I well, I guess they do have an extra second because of the DK trades. If they want to use that in Dart, then ooh, perhaps. Or McCord, hey, who knows? He's gonna go.
The gears are turning.
Oh yeah. Oh, they are. But yeah, we'll see what they do. Like I said, Pats are signing a bunch of guys. We sniped Milton Williams from the Panthers, but he got a bag. Oh my God. It was like 104 or something like that. But yeah, I'm happy with what they're doing. Harold Landry, Robert Spillane. But yeah, couple what other big signings
Yeah.
have there been?
So, I mean, the Chiefs have pretty much re-signed everybody except we traded away
Justin
Tooney.
Watson went just signed with the Texans.
Yeah, but
Still, yeah.
honestly, who cares? Xavier
Wait, oh
Worthy not being charged. Most dangerous wide receiver room in the league,
my
not being
God.
charged.
There you go.
Praise be. Um, we just signed Jalen Moore.
Yeah.
Um,
Wait, what'd you say about Joe Tooney? What's his deal?
he got traded to the Bears.
Did he really? Did this happen
Yeah.
since you've been recording?
Mm-mm. It was like a while ago.
Let me see. Who did the Bears also got somebody else, a good O lineman.
Uh, yeah.
Let me see. Forget who it was. Let me. They signed Grady Jarrett. I'd be thinking of that. Um, but
We
yeah.
just Chiefs just signed Elijah Mitchell
Oh yeah.
as well
I missed the Tooney trade. I didn't see that. Tunsil trade to
to the
the
Commanders. Dude, the
Commanders. Yep.
Commanders are gonna be
I know.
good.
I'm actually, I really
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
we didn't even talk about the Debo trade.
Oh my God, yeah. That's a couple weeks ago to
Honestly,
the
like pretty good deal for the
Commanders,
Commanders,
yeah.
but he will be the wide receiver too.
Yeah, I feel like he's just gonna get lost I don't know. I don't feel like it's even that big of a fact, but it is a nice compliment to Terry to give him some help.
Yeah, they're
Um,
different, so like it is
yeah. hmm
solid, but
You can put Debo wherever. But I think yeah, the Commanders are filling their holes, or trying to at least, which is nice. Um, but we'll see. I mean, their Super Bowl window is now, so might as well go all in. Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
Hollywood Brown re-signed.
mm,
Devontae to the Rams after
Devontae to the
being cut.
Rams. Yeah,
We
he said he
still
wants to
have
end his
no
career
idea
there.
where Rodgers is gonna
Field
go.
to the Jets.
Fields to the Jets.
Yeah, he's their starter, I
Jones
guess.
back to the Vikings.
Yeah, I like
Um,
that.
Josh Palmer to the Bills.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, so
Um,
who, let me see here.
who's leaving?
Let's
Why are
see.
we paying Jalen Moore 30 million for 2 years? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's kind of
Oh yeah,
crazy.
we franchise tagged Trey Smith. T. Higgins
Mm,
got the franchise
franchise
tag as
tag,
well,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
Um,
That whole dude, they should extend. The Bengals have screwed up so much. Should have extended T 2 years ago. Should have extended
oh,
Tamar a year or two ago. Yeah.
big pass rushers. Josh Sweat to the Cardinals,
Mm,
Hassan Reddick to the Bucks. Hassan Reddick's deal is only 1 year.
wow. Miles Garrett resigned after all that, which is
Yeah.
insane.
So Max Crosby became the highest
Hmm.
paid defensive non-QB ever, and
Yeah.
then Miles Garrett took his spot. And then did
Yeah.
somebody else just beat him out? Somebody
Don't
else just resigned?
with Miles Garrett or beat Miles Garrett? I don't think
Uh,
so. I think he's still in the
yeah,
role.
no, you're right.
Another big one, Carlton Davis to the Pats, 3 for 60.
Yeah, a recent one, Charvarius Ward to the Colts.
Yeah, there we go. Colts have
I
signed a
like
few
that a lot for
guys.
the
They signed
Colts.
Cam Bynum
Yeah,
too. They're secondary,
yeah.
yeah. I don't hate that.
Dio Denabo to the Bears.
Yeah.
The Bears are kind of making moves.
Yeah. Don't hate
Kind of
it.
making moves.
Nate
Yeah,
Hobbs, 4 years, 48 to Packers. There you go.
Javon Kinlaw to the Commanders. I
Hmm.
really liked him out of the draft, so I had to say
Yeah, he
something.
was, bro, I had to put it. Yeah, he was up there. He was like seventh or eighth overall pick, right?
Yeah, DJ Reed to the Lions.
Yeah, that was a big one. Huge.
Um,
Javon King.
oh, Justin Tucker.
Wait, what? You got signed by some? Wait.
No, 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 no. Just what do you
Oh,
think?
yeah. His thing.
He's
Oof.
Deshaun
Oh
Watson.
man. Oh, Justin. Yeah, that's we'll see how the case goes on that one. But
Dude, it's so crazy. Like, apparently he was literally like the most beloved person
yeah,
in Baltimore, like
it's crazy.
history.
Can't
It's
trust anybody,
crazy.
man. All right, we're
Can't
17
trust
minutes
anybody.
past the interview. So if you want to wrap it up, we kind of just been
All right.
spitballing some
Yeah.
signings.
Yeah.
But oh, by the way, as we wrap it up, Jeff Passan just tweeted Garrett Cole will miss the 2025 season because of Tommy John surgery.
Wow.
Wait, that's insane. Oh, can you imagine he had to leave because of to
Dude.
report?
Dude.
He mentioned that at the start.
We literally missed him by like 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, he mentioned that at the start. He was like, hey, I might have to leave the report. Garrett Cole, Tommy John. But hey, all right, well.
Wow. We told him we could leak it on the podcast,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
he didn't want
I guess
to,
he didn't want to text us and let us know. Whatever. But
Wow.
still. Anyways, thank you guys for listening.
Fantastic times.
Yes, it was a great interview. Good talking ball with Jeff. And yeah, I got nothing else. Got anything? Any last remarks,
Yeah.
Nash?
Peace out, guys.
Yeah, peace out,
Big
guys.
things to come for sure.
Of course. See ya.